Good afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. If you are watching live, we are in the Advent time in the Christian calendar, which is probably why she's not really a goddess, she's a saint, but she has lots of goddess qualities this week, and why last week too. We were honoring the Virgin Mary because it was the day of her immaculate conception within her own mother, Saint Anne. So at any rate, Deborah Roth here from Spirited Living, and delighted to be back here where we explore what qualities and who it is that I'm talking about when we speak of the divine feminine and when we talk about our inner goddess team. So I would invite you to really acknowledge that regardless of your gender, we all have these divinely feminine qualities within us. Mercy, compassion, honoring our intuition, sensitivity, the ability to communicate and empathize, honoring our emotions, a huge one. We're not hysterical females or hysterical anything. We are just feeling all of our emotions. And excuse me, also honoring our connection to our bodies, which gets demonized for a long time now in the Christian church. So I love kind of reclaiming some of these Christian saints and important, empowered women, and honoring our connection to nature through our bodies, through however we want to be honoring all these parts of ourselves. So I invite you to take in this light-filled time of year. Now I say light-filled because there are candles everywhere. The reason for that, of course, is that we are just a week from the winter solstice, which is the moment on the wheel of the year when we have the least amount of light, when the night is longest, the days are shortest. And so all over the world there are festivals and we'll talk more about that next week as we come into right in the midst of the winter solstice itself on December 21st. The saint that we will be honoring today, Sankta Lucia in Italy, Lucia or Lucy, Saint Lucy in the Scandinavian countries, in Hungary and Croatia. She really is honored in many different Christian traditions. And in fact, on December 13th, this is her feast day. So it may not be a big celebration in the United States, it definitely is in other parts of the world. And I'll share for you at the end the words to the very famous, known as a Christmas song, Sankta Lucia. And it's beautiful. And the words are actually, I don't know that I ever knew all the words to it, but it's such a perfect one for solstice time. So while she may be a Christian saint, she is all about bringing back the light and lighting the world. And she was brought to the Scandinavian countries, to Sweden, by Christian monks. She was a real person in history. She in Rome, and she's also honored in Italy. So in ancient Roman times, the story with her, and she was a martyr. She was killed horribly as a martyr in the year 304 because she was secretly bringing food to the Christians who were outlawed at that time, into the catacombs, the places of the dead. That's where they were hiding out. And because she needed her hands to carry all of the food, she lit her way with a wreath with candles on it. So this is one of the depictions, and I chose. I didn't pick a saintly looking one. I took a more childlike one, but you can see her. Make sure that everybody can see her. You can see her beautiful, crown of candles that in history, historically, lit her way so that she could serve these persecuted Christians. And when she was caught, she was punished, and she was supposed to marry a pagan, and she was murdered when she refused. She was, and that's what turned her into a saint, into a martyr. So there are several stories. So that's the main story about Sankta Lucia, Saint Lucy, Sankta Lucia in Sweden. Now, as you probably know, the Scandinavian countries are in their darkest time of year. I just had one of my wonderful clients, she was in one of my women's spirituality groups years ago, visited and said, yes, there's probably maybe a few hours of sunlight right now in Scandinavia. So to be able to embrace this tradition, which basically involves, still does, it's a big day there, usually the eldest girl in the family is dressed in white. I dressed in white, and Saint Lucy in Sankta Lucia's honor, and she has a crown of candles, and she offers saffron cakes, or traditional ginger snaps, or gingerbread are traditional at this time of year. She often can wear a red sash. In the Christian tradition, it represents the blood of her martyrdom. There are a couple symbols that are associated with her that have more to do about her death. A dagger, how she was killed. I mean, there are a couple not really nice associations with the symbols with her. And let's see, I'm looking to see, I want to make sure this was kind of interesting. So while it's very much of an honoring, talk about an honoring of the divine feminine, an honoring of Saint Lucy, of Sankta Lucia, boys can also participate in the processions. Children process through the villages in ancient times, and apparently still do in some places, led by the girls or women with candle crowns. But the boys can also wear, they're called star boys, and they wear pointy hats, sadly kind of associated with Ku Klux Klan, but pointy hats with stars all over them. And so that's the role that boys can play in these Sankta Lucia processions. So, given all that, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you. Interestingly, December 13th, way back when this was, declared, when she was made a saint, and when this was declared, was when we were in the Julian, when the world was, operated on the Julian calendar, and it was actually the winter solstice. Once we changed to the Georgian calendar, the winter solstice was moved, back or forward, I guess, a week. So Saint Lucy's Day, Sankta Lucia, the celebration is actually a winter solstice celebration. I mean, I've talked about this being in the general vicinity of the winter solstice. So it was actually, back then, according to their calendar, a light-bringing celebration. So the message here, and I invite you to think about this, where in your life do you need to bring in more light? How can you spread the light to others? Some things that I read said she's also considered a patroness or a protector of the blind. So she helps us to shed lights on those shadow areas, on those parts of our lives that we may not want to look at too closely. And the message of light is a big one this time of year anyway. So I invite you to look at that in your own life. And that's kind of my question for meditation, for contemplation, from Sankta Lucia. If you're loving this, definitely subscribe to my YouTube page. I always forget to say that. And comment. I'd love to hear anything more, especially from Scandinavian folks. I mentioned that she was also honored in Croatia, and let me see if I can find, in Croatia and Hungary, a popular tradition involves planting wheat grains that are going to be just a few centimeters by Christmas Day, which is, again, it's associated with Jesus and Christmas Day. So it just shows the new life that's happening as the light returns. So enough. I love all this historical stuff, so I hope you do too, because that's always what I love going into. Her song which I really encourage you. It's just a beautiful song, and I'm sure you've heard it. But the words to her song are, night walks with a heavy step round yard and hearth. As the sun departs from earth, shadows are brooding. There in our dark homes, walking with lit candles. Sankta Lucia, Sankta Lucia. Does that ring bells? Night walks grand yet silent. Now hear its gentle wings. In every room so hushed, whispering like wings. Look at our threshold stands, white clad with light in her hair. Sankta Lucia, Sankta Lucia. A little high for me. And the last verse. Darkness shall take flight soon from earth's valleys, so she speaks wonderful words to us. A new day will rise again from the rosy sky. Sankta Lucia, Sankta Lucia. So, allow the light to flow into your life. Right now, we're still in those darkest moments this week before the now summer solstice, but allow the light from Sankta Lucia to guide you forward into the new year through the darkness. And would love to, thank you. Someone wanted to know if my YouTube channel is the same. It's Goddess of One. I always post there. I'll make sure that I put it in the Instagram and Facebook comments. Thank you for asking me that. All for now. Thank you so much, and I hope you're moving gently and beautifully through this holiday season. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.